Mark 4:35. On that day, when evening had come, he, that is Jesus, said to them, let us go across to the other side. And leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. And other boats were with them. Now, what is the major theological point of that? Nothing. There were just other boats with him. It does, though, give evidence that the source behind Mark's gospel is an eyewitness, because he notices something and interjects a statement that has really no theological significance, but it is something an eyewitness would have pointed out. Otherwise, it's nonsense that it would be there if you were just writing a purely mythical account. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he, that is Jesus, was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, Teacher. Now, one of the interesting things to do when you work through the Gospels is look at the various titles that are ascribed to Jesus. Certain particular Gospels have particular favorite titles. Here, and Mark does emphasize him as a teacher, though Mark has the least amount of teaching material of the four Gospels. Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? And he awoke, and he rebuked, you ought to mark that word, he rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. Perfect tense verb, by the way, past action with abiding results. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. He said to them, two questions here. One, why are you so afraid? Two, have you still no faith? And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Now, I would argue quite strongly that that last statement there is the controlling point of the passage. Who is this person that even the wind and the sea obey him? Well, evidently, the disciples don't know yet, but demons do. You say, how do you know that? Well, we keep reading, because there's no chapter divisions or verse divisions in the Bible we're reading this morning. They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gerasenes. And when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately, one of Mark's favorite words, by the way, uses it more than Matthew, Luke, and John combined, over 50 times. Immediately, there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. He's demon-possessed. He lived among the tombs. No one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was crying out and cutting himself with stones. My own personal opinion is that the demons were trying to lead him to commit suicide. I don't think these were acts of worship. I think certainly it was a soul that was being tormented and terrorized, but I think the demons were attempting to bring him to death. And verse 6, when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before him. Fell down in worship? Probably not. Fell down in light of who he knew Jesus was? Well, verse 7. And crying out with a loud voice, he said, What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? So, do the disciples know who Jesus is? No. Does the demon-possessed man know? Yes. In fact, very interesting phenomenon in Scripture, demons, in terms of what they say about Jesus, never get it wrong. Not one time. They always get it right when they acknowledge His person and acknowledge who He is. So in a real sense, what you've got working through the end of Mark into 5 and so on is a cascading group of stories that are to demonstrate to you and to me that this one who can calm the sea, this one who can deliver the demon-possessed man, this one who can heal a woman who's been sick for almost 12 years, this one who can raise the dead, He's God. and you ought to trust and believe in Him. The story of Jesus calming the storm is not really about how to get you through the storms of life. Now, does He get us through the storms of life? Well, of course He does. And that's a very nice, picturesque image and metaphor of what Christ does for us in terms of seeing us through our trials and tribulations and difficulties. But that's not what the text is about. The text is about He is deity in the flesh, and you ought to have faith in Him. Why do you still have no faith? Why are you still afraid? You shouldn't be afraid, and you should by now have faith in this one who's been doing kind of a series of things, and now it just continues to build in chapter 4 and also in chapter 5. Yet amazingly, in chapter 6, he goes back to his hometown, and they basically tell him to take a hike because they know who he is. We've known you since you were a boy, and no one coming out of Nazareth is going to be the Messiah. And it says that as a result of that, they took offense to him. He did not do many mighty works there because he couldn't. No, he can do whatever he wants to whenever he wants to. He's God. But he didn't because he responds to faith, which picks back up on the theme there of chapter 4 and the story of the stealing of the storm. Now,